Hello. So, what's going to be inside the box that is delivered to your house? Here is everything that should be in it and how to use it. So, first off, one thing that you'll find in there is the good old fashioned drop counter. So, the way that this will work, I'll just go ahead and get it out of the bag, but make sure you put it back in the bag when you're done with it. So, one drop counter. Then we have a graduated cylinder, plastic, notice, smart. We have a LabQuest Mini with the appropriate cable, which I'll show you about in just a minute. I've got my goggles. I've got the plastic burette for the Titran. I've got a wash bottle with distilled water. Don't put tap water in here. It's purely distilled. Then I've got a plastic beaker for the Analyte. I've got the pH sensor. Then I've got my base, which has the magnet stir bar on there. Long metal rod here, which I'll go ahead and just take and screw right into this like so. Just like that. And tighten that guy in there. And then we have the adapter, which plugs into the wall. And so there we go. It will plug into the wall like so. And so it just plugs in on the back of the stir station like so. I've got a clamp, which will go on the ring. I've got a magnet stir bar remover. So when you're done, you can dump the liquid or stick this in the solution and it will grab it. Like so. You'll have a bunch of guys, which will be filled with solutions and they will be labeled. You'll have some of distilled water, vinegar, and ammonia. So now that I've gotten everything out of the box, now let's assemble everything. So the first thing I'll do is I got everything plugged in over here. And now I'm going to take my drop counter and I'm going to slide it on like so. Just like that. And then I can tighten it like so. And so I've got that on there. Then I'm going to want to take my clamp here. And I want to put my clamp on there as well. And I'll just kind of tighten it like that for show. So now let me pause it and I'm going to reposition it so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so now I've got it all set up. I'm going to take my beaker. I'm going to put my plastic or my metal stir bar in there. It should align. You can test to make sure that it's centered good enough by going ahead and plugging this guy in. I'll plug it in back here. Make sure you got power on there, and it should start stirring. You can also test with the light, like so. That looks like a glowing solution there. So then, what we'll do is we'll get the burette like this. Now, this thing can be unscrewed, so you might just make sure that it's on tight. It shouldn't become loose if we don't play with it, but let's make sure that it stays tight. The positioning of this thing is if it's perpendicular to the column, it's closed. If it's parallel with the column, then it's open. So you want to make sure before you pour any liquid in that it's closed. We're going to set it up to where we can fit in there. Now, when you do this, you want to position it to where the drop counter. Let me try to get. Oh, there goes the beaker. But you want it to where this tip right here is going to drop right in between this slit right here on the drop counter. So I have that positioned like perfectly. If I had it positioned like this or like this, that would not be good. I want it to be positioned to where it's going to go right in between this gap right here. Okay. I also want this thing to be as low down as possible. Okay. Now, this may or may not work depending on when I put the pH sensor in, so I'll give you instructions about what to do in just a second. So then you're going to get your pH sensor out of here. And you'll notice that the pH sensor has some instructions with it. You can read through it if you like some technical reading. I wouldn't recommend it. And then it comes in a solution here. You want to remove it from this thing just by simply twisting like I'm doing. It should have a little bulb on the end of it. See that? A little bulb. So there's a little slot in that big slot at the front. That's where the pH sensor goes. You just drop that right in there and it should hold it nice. And that's going to fit actually really well. It's almost touching the bottom of the beaker, which is perfect. And I have this set up to where as it spins, it's not coming in contact with it, which is really good because you don't want the stir bar hitting the pH sensor. So that's good. That's going to allow us to get really good results. So I want to make sure I set the solution away because I don't want to tip it over or anything like that. And then it's a matter of plugging it into the LabQuest. So my pH sensor will be plugged into one of the channels here. So I'm going to plug that in like so to a channel 1, channel 2, or channel 3. It doesn't really matter. And the drop counter also needs to be plugged into that. And it needs to be plugged in not to a channel, so don't force it into a channel because it doesn't go there. It goes into one of these digital ports. And so you want to make sure you have the lines correctly and it's snapped right in. Then you'll take your port like this. It's like this. It has a whatever end that is called. You plug it into the end right there. Boom. And then the other end of that gets plugged into your computer. Like this with graphical. Now, when you plug it in to your computer and you pull up graphical, it should automatically register that it is a pH sensor and a drop counter pulled up. I'm going to double check that tomorrow morning, and I will make a video showing you what it looks like on a Chromebook. I just don't have a Chromebook with me at my house. But this is pretty much your setup. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your solution. Your analyte is going to be the unknown ammonia. Okay? So you're going to take your graduated cylinder. You're going to measure out a set amount of ammonia. And what I'm going to have you do is measure out exactly 10 milliliters of ammonia. 10 milliliters of ammonia. Then you're going to fill up here with the acetic acid. And you're going to use the data that I give you later to help figure out what that is exactly. And then, in addition to having 10 milliliters of ammonia down here, I'm going to have you add a little bit of water in there to help dilute it down a little bit. And so that's my tentative idea right now. I'm going to play around with it. If I need to change it, I will.